Human groups, activists, and social media users have condemned the Lagos State Police Command and the Lagos State government over the arrest and the use of force on residents who protested the demolition of their homes across parts of the state on Wednesday. The condemnation followed the police's deployment of tear gas to disperse hundreds of demonstrators who converged in Ikeja to protest what they described as their displacement without adequate compensation or relocation. The protesters, drawn from Makoko, Oronshoki, Owodeoniri, Okwobaba, and other communities, carried placards bearing inscriptions such as, "A mega city cannot be built on the bones and blood of the poor. Urban poor is not a crime. Stop killing us. Justice for Owodeoniri traders. And Lagos is not for the rich alone." They also chanted solidarity songs. Joining us on the show to discuss the demolitions in Lagos is Nnimmo Bassey, an environmentalist or environmental activist. Good morning and most welcome to the morning show, Mr. Bassey.
Good morning and thank you for having me.
Well, Nnimmo, good to see you. Happy New Year. And thank you very much for joining us on the morning show. Now, quickly.
Thank you so much. I wish you the same.
Yeah.
Happy but sad New Year.
Well, you're an environmentalist. You're also an architect. So nobody can explain urban planning and all of those issues to you. But the Lagos state government, in the face of these protests and demonstrations, is saying that it has acted in the interest of public safety, particularly in the Makoko area. And that in other places, what is being cleared is, urban renewal with regard to the erection of illegal structures, shanties. And the government of Lagos State has also, even in spite of that, offered compensation. Now, but the allegation is that government is doing class cleansing. And Governor Sanwo-Olu personally has said it's not doing class cleansing, but the state governments generally, are in charge of urban renewal. So what do you say to all of this before we deal with how the protesters have been treated?
Well, thank you so much. The Makoko incident and ongoing challenges in the public space, the area is very open to anyone to see. Those passing on Third Mainland Bridge don't have to search for where Makoko is or was. The arguments given by the state regarding what they've done at Makoko are just mere excuses. The issue of urban renewal is not strange, but what we've seen consistently is the forced evictions of poor communities. And even the argument about public safety can also be seen to be just an excuse for trying to explain away what has been done, the grievous harm that the community has been exposed to, and the kind of disempowerment, the displacement, destruction of livelihoods, and in fact, destruction of hope. The people are made almost hopeless in the situation that we're seeing ourselves. So the argument has been that, well, for safety, nobody should build structures beneath power lines. That is true. Nobody should build structures beneath high tension electricity cables. Nobody can argue about that, and that is why the people agreed that the statutory setbacks can be enforced, which is 30 meters from those power lines. And then the government shifted the goalpost to 50 meters, and the people agreed. Shifted to 100 meters, the people still agreed. And now they've gone well up to probably over 300 meters. It's become clear that the idea is to flush out, to destroy the entire architecture, the entire neighborhood and communities on the waters on that part of Lagos Lagoon.
Okay. All right, thank you. Now, what has been said, I read out some of the inscriptions on the placards raised during the protests, some of which said that the compensation was not adequate, and in fact, it was an urbanization of Lagos State such that the people who were most vulnerable, didn't have access to capital, would not be able to afford to live in the state. Do you agree with these sentiments shared? And would you agree that the Lagos state government has handled this well in terms of engagement, communication, and compensation?
Well, I think the Lagos state government, the truth be told, has handled this situation very poorly. We are talking about a community with very dense population, very active and struggling Nigerians. Even if you want to say that the place is, some people call it slum, but it's just an unserved community. It's government's duty to ensure that everybody can live in dignity and that wherever they live is properly serviced with clean water, with sanitation and power. So you find places where people are struggling almost like everywhere else in Nigeria. The Nigerian economy is basically informal. I mean, up to 60-70% of the Nigerian economy is informal. Food production is by the artisanal, by the householder farmers. The economy is run by artisans. Even the mining sector, a lot of activities going on by artisans. So we shouldn't be surprised that people are just struggling to survive. And destruction of communities can never be a good way to respond to urban problems. We've seen it happen to Morocco in the 90s. We've seen it happen to so many other places in Lagos. It's a continuous planned way of dispossessing the already dispossessed, evicting the poor, so that the rich can have their shiny estates and leisure parks.
Why is it that we have a government that never thinks of the poor, but they campaign based on the needs of the poor? But when they get into power, they never think of the poor.
This is a dilemma of the nation, because during election campaign periods, Makoko would be a good place, always a good place to harvest votes and all those underserved communities. But when it comes to choosing whether to favor the rich and powerful or to make life bearable for the poor, the pendulum always turns towards away from the poor people. And this is the crisis of the nation, and not just in Nigeria. It's almost like a global phenomenon. Rich nations are treating poorer nations as, permitted to use this term, shitholes. And when people do that, when people have that mentality, you find that might is right. I can do whatever I want. I can demolish your communities. What are you going to do? You're going to cry for 3 days. After that, you're going to find your level, and we can just keep on bulldozing and steamrolling everything. This is what we are seeing, and I believe it's time for this to stop. And that is why the people took to go into the...
Okay, the state government consistently talked about illegal structures. Are you saying that if those illegal structures are erected by the poor, the law should look the other way? And then what would be your advice, given the circumstances, to the Lagos state government? We have many communities that are protesting, from Okobaba to Owodo Onirin to Makoko to Iyano Wurunshoki. What will be your advice? Should they go to court or, continue to insist that the government has no right in the matter?
I believe there's some court rulings already subsisting that have ruled against forceful eviction or destruction of Makoko. I believe that those have just been ignored. But, the harm has been done. What government has to do is to lick his wounds if it doesn't have any wounds. But the government is to just sit back and say, now we've made the wrong things. Even the Lagos State Assembly has invited the people for a conversation early next week. I think they issued the letter yesterday or thereabout, after people have been harmed and tear gas and deprived of any sense of dignity. Now, what government has to do is to go to the governor should appear at a disaster zone and see what they've done, not just watch pictures. You go there physically and sit down with the people right in that place, to talk to the people and explain why they've done what they've done. Makoko was very iconic. The architecture there was, in fact, there was a time that the floating school was built there that was drawing global attention. Even in architectural circles, in urban planning circles, in this age of climate change, we have to learn to build differently. And the people of Makoko have shown that this is one way to build structures that would stand above the waters, whether there's flood or whether there's drought, whether there's sea level rise or not. It was a floating laboratory. There were schools, there were orphanages, there were clinics, there were churches and mosques, and all these have been leveled. It's just incredible that anybody could think of doing that. And I believe if they want to really do what is acceptable, they should get some architects, some urban planners to plan how to restructure Makoko and replicate the kind of architecture that we had there, and then make it accessible and affordable to the people who were living there to go back and restart their livelihoods. I even got a report that even boats, canoes were set on fire, destroyed, so that the only means the people have to make a living was taken away from them. Who does that?
Okay, thank you very much. Thank you very much, Mr. Nnimmo Bassey, architect and environmental activist, for joining us on The Morning Show.